Awesome. Thanks, Taylor, for that intro. Excited to be here for Swish 2021 and talk a little bit about modern recruiting and kind of as a current college coach, what we look for, some do's and don'ts in the process, and kind of where we've had success within recruiting. So first off, just want to go over just my background a little bit. So, I am the head men's basketball coach at the College of New Jersey, Matt Goldsmith. I've won 2 Division III national championships, one as a player and one as an assistant coach at Amherst College. Volunteered with 2 gold medal winning USA basketball teams. In the last full season before COVID, we won our first conference championship here at TCNJ in 22 years. And just recruiting wise, some fun stuff. So in our first 2 full recruiting classes, we had back-to-back conference players of the year who are both playing professionally currently. And they were our first All-Americans in almost 30 years here at the College of New Jersey. And a little fun fact, last year, I was last summer, the GM and coach of a team called the Nerd Team in the TBT tournament in 2021. So it's just some quick background info on me here at TCNJ. So, I tried to think about this presentation from a few different angles, right? I wanted to think about, a high school coach and how a high school coach could help his players in the recruiting process. I wanted to think about players and how some good info for them and some things that could help them while they go through the process and are communicating with coaches. And I wanted to help other college coaches, in terms of how we evaluate our recruiting and what we look for, things of that nature. So as I go through the presentation, you'll see kind of those 3 different approaches here. And I hope you guys can all get something out of it as I go through. So, obviously to start with, when you're talking recruiting, it's just about what your program in particular is looking for in a person and in a student athlete. So for us, when we're looking at recruits, we look for high character, tough kids. The trend now in basketball, and we follow it, is length, height, but also wingspan. We love gym rats. We love guys who want to be in the gym and get better. We don't want a player who is at his best when he graduates high school. We want a player who's going to be at his best when he's a senior in college. And that it's not about points per game. The best players in high school are not always the best recruits. I find some of these, like ranking systems when they're coming out of high school so funny, because a guy who's ranked really highly in high school might not be actually the best recruit for a certain school if they had a choice between, a top 20 recruit and a top, 100 recruit or whatever it might be. It all depends. And a fun phrase, my old boss used to teach me at Amherst College, Dave Hickson, who was a legend in college coaching, won over 800 games in the Division III level. He used to say, you can only handle one headache. So what that means is you can have one guy who takes up a little bit more time or you have to pay a little bit more attention to. But when you start having 2 of those on your roster, it becomes an issue. You stop coaching and all you're doing really is handling headaches. And, I am a basketball guy, but I do love a good movie. And this scene is just a classic from Miracle.
You're missing some of the best players.
I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones.
Just a great line. And I think something that more coaches should think about. I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones and the ones that fit what we do and are going to come here and work hard for us. So again, I think it's important to note when you're a high school coach that every college coach or recruit, everybody looks for something different. And this is what we value, but other schools value completely different things. So keep that in mind in the process. And as we go forward here, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Cool. All right. So first and foremost, your guard. So in my opinion, finding a lead guard is probably the most important decision in a basketball program. I don't care the level. I don't care, NBA, college, high school, middle school. In order to have success, you have to have a good lead guard. It's just facts. So this is the biggest decision for our program. And so you'll see in a lot of these cases, so the intangibles are the first things we're going to look for at a lot of these positions. So obviously a leader, high character kid, tough as nails, and ball control. For us, ball control is an important statistic, an important thing to look at. So we want guys who limit turnovers, get their teammates involved, and make the people around them better. For me, I've been a part of 2 national championships. Really, I just kind of rode the coattails of great guards. Our 2 national championships, one as a player, we had the National Player of the Year. He was our point guard, my roommate in college. And when we won the second time, when I was an assistant coach, we again had the National Player of the Year. He was our point guard. So again, from my experience, this is by far the biggest decision you can make in your program. And for us here at TCNJ, we look at point guards. They can do 2 things. So obviously ball control, limit turnovers, leader, but we either need a point guard who can shoot at an acceptable level. So make defense, care that they can shoot or guard them at the 3-point line, or do something else at a scholarship level. So at Division III, that would be maybe a not exactly a high level shooter, but a very high level defender, or is very quick, or is extremely tall for his position. So we can kind of play around with that piece of it. But again, I can't really emphasize this enough. To me, finding the right lead guard is the most important thing you can do for a basketball program and a basketball team. So you really, really, really have to be particular and intentional with what you want and what leads to success within your program. Wings. Now, wings is funny because I find with a wing player, a 2-3-4, a stretch 4, a shooting guard, whatever you want to call it in your program, I think you can be a little bit loose with wings. I think they can be characters. The most important thing for me out of a wing is that they're hyper confident in themselves and their ability. Sometimes it's hard to instill confidence in a recruit, but you can always back it off if they're a little too confident when they get to college. Okay. So again, we look for length. We want long shooters at the wing, guys who can guard multiple positions. Gym rat. Again, I already said this, but I'll repeat it lots of times here. Okay. I do not want a player who's at his best coming out of high school. I want them to be better in 4 years. And the only real way to do that is if they care about it and they put the work in the off season. High level shooter. For us at TCNJ, we shoot a ton of threes. We get up and down. We need guys who can make shots and help spread the floor. It's very much trendy in the basketball world to be thinking in this way. But this is really important for us. Defensive versatility. Okay. So can you guard multiple positions? Can you bother big? Can you keep a guard in front of you? Okay. They don't have to be great at all of it, but they should be able to do one of those things. Okay. And again, hyper confident. These guys, I find our wings often that I'm attracted to in the recruiting process. They're a little different guys, but they're super confident in their abilities, and they love being in the gym. So, just for us, the 2 past players of the year were wings for us. They played that position, different styles to their game, but they both were those types of kids. And they just signed to play professionally. One's playing in Taiwan, making a lot of money. The other got signed to play in the Bundesliga, which is very rare coming out of Division III. But both of them were very long and loved the game. And one of the best stories I can tell about that is I was recruiting this kid, Randy Walker, who's playing in Taiwan now, and we were having a conversation. And I asked him, hey, where do you, get your extra work, and how do you get in the gym? You're a great shooter. You must spend time in there. And he said, well, coach, I actually decided I should learn Spanish this year because the janitors at my school speak Spanish, and I wanted to become friends with them so that they would let me in the gym. And at that point, I just immediately said, we want this kid, because if you're going to learn a new language in order to shoot extra shots, I think when you get here, you're going to really put some extra work in. He ended up being, the best player for us for multiple years and is making good money playing hoops right now. So just a fun little story about the type of kid we're looking for. And then post players, and posts can be, for us at least, undersized and super tough, play bigger than they are, strong, or really tall and skinny. If they're both tall, strong, and tough, they are scholarship players. So we kind of can move on from there. But if we can find, the players we like, but they have one issue in their game, they're not tall enough, they're not strong enough yet being the key word, those are the guys we like. And this is a picture of one of our rising seniors, this kid, Danny Bowden. Listen, Danny, as a senior in high school, averaged maybe 4 points, maybe 4 rebounds, and 4 blocks, a 4-4-4 guy. He really didn't have too many skills, but he loved the game. And I was at a game of his, and he went up to block a kid's shot and got dunked on. Just dunked on. Boom, he's on the floor. This kid's screaming in his face. Well, Danny got right back up, sprinted down the floor, and got a bucket. He didn't think twice about it. And those are the moments with certain kids you say, wow, this kid's 6'9", super skinny. He doesn't really do much in there, but he wants it. He's competitive. Okay, he's not afraid to be embarrassed or to get challenged at the rim. So again, posts, they are really important too. You can't be quite as loose here because they're so important to defensive communication and things of that nature. So undersized and tough as nails, or tall and skinny. And if they're both, you probably have a scholarship kid. So those are kind of some things we look for in particular out of our recruits. And now I'm going to move into some recruiting do's and don'ts. Just some things that I think will help both players and high school coaches, AU coaches, as they try to help the recruiting process with their guys or women. Okay. First thing, some do's. Okay. So I think this is really important to understand that college coaches want to hear direct from the student athletes. We do not want to have to go through parents or coaches or anywhere else. Our initial contact will hopefully be direct from the player, and then we can have a coach or a parent follow up from there. Okay. When a kid comes in 18, 19 years old and has to fend for himself now as a student athlete in college, we don't want a guy who needs to rely on his parents or his high school coach to get things done. So some red flags that'll pop up is if, you reach out to student athletes and you hear back from a coach, you hear back from a parent rather than directly from the student athlete. We want those guys to take ownership in the process, and you can figure that out through certain ways. Okay. Highlights. Now, highlights are, for me, very important in that initial email, right? 3 to 6 minutes of highlights. I'll be honest with you. If I get more than 3 to 6 minutes, I do not watch all of them. I just don't. We get hundreds of these emails a day, hundreds of highlights to watch a week. If I spend and watched my whole time watch every highlight, it won't go so well. So 3 to 6 minutes. Okay. You do not need to be great at everything in a highlight. So like, if you're not a shooter, don't show me shooting yourself shooting 3-point shots with bad form or they bank in or whatever, because I'll figure out you're not a shooter by watching that rather than maybe being not sure, are you a shooter, are you not a shooter, because you just put on the highlights, the good things, the rebounds, the finishing, whatever it might be, you're quick, whatever it is. Demonstrate what you're good at within a highlight. Now, highlights are like the appetizer. And now if I like the highlights, I'm going to reach back out and we're going to ask for full game tape. And that's how we're going to help make a decision on, is this guy worth going out, seeing in person, seeing live, following up with? Okay. Academic stats. Now, again, if you're one of the best players in the country, you probably don't need to put your academic stats in an email. But if you're not, and the majority of college basketball players are not top 100 guys or women, okay, we need your academic stats. So in that first email, your GPA, your SAT, your ACT, maybe a copy of your transcripts in high school, okay? Athletic stats, right? And I think this is important. From previous slides, that is what a lot of coaches in the business that I find are looking for now in recruits: the wingspan, the size, the intangibles, the gym rat mentality. Put that in the email, right? A 6'2" shooter that I just see as a 6'2" shooter, I might not be very interested in, but if you put he's a 6'2" shooter with a 6'5" wingspan, I'm going to watch that highlight. I know I am because of that wingspan factor. Okay. So again, make sure that's in there. Height. You'd be amazed how many guys don't put their height in there. Listen, in basketball is a tall man sport. Okay. Height needs to be in there. Age, when their birthday is, right? If a guy is super young, okay, that's another area where, okay, we can project out, oh, he's only 17 when he graduates. He might still grow. You never know, right? He's young. Okay. Personalize the email. All right. Another really important piece. You don't need a lot. Okay. But personalize the email. Hey, I noticed you guys did this last season. Bop, 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 bop. Congrats, whatever it might be. Don't do the mass email. Turns coaches off. Okay. Proofread. You would be amazed how many emails get sent like they're text messages. Lowercase, no capitalization, no grammar, no punctuation. Okay. All those things. Proofread the email, right? This is your initial communication with a college coach. It needs to look nice. Okay. And if it's a text, all right, make sure you follow up with an email afterwards, because if I read a text, okay, I might not get back to it, might get lost in the shuffle. But with all these emails, I can move them into folders. I can keep them on read, this and that. It just helps a lot, because again, it's about trying to wade through the mess here of recruiting. There are so many possible student athletes out there. Okay. So it's whatever you can do to prevent, somebody just going past it or forgetting about the message or whatever it might be. Okay. Some don'ts. All right. And we kind of talked about this, but some funny stories, right? Be accurate. I've had emails where a student athlete, a high school athlete, sends me his stats, and then in parentheses after the stats, it says per 40 minutes, right? And in reality, he's averaging, 5 points, 2 rebounds or something. But per 40, if he extrapolated it, he's like 20 and 10 guy, right? Just be accurate, be honest. We'll figure it out if we're doing our homework, okay? Be accurate from the start. All right. Grammar. Again, this is not a text exchange. Please use capital letters. Okay. Punctuation. Proofread this stuff. A classic one. You have a different coach's name to start the email. Oh, I get that all the time. Okay. No mass emails, right? So many guys, maybe they'll try to CC an entire conference or a bunch of academic schools in Division III or whatever it is, and we're all on this email together. Okay. That just shows, well, you didn't do your work early. You didn't put some work in of what type of school you're actually interested in. Okay. And again, these sticking points, that's my last bullet here, but it just makes the job harder. And any sticking point will maybe prevent us from moving forward in the process. Okay. Don't skip steps, right? So what that means is, does this school have your major? Does this school, is it affordable? Is it in the location you want? Is it the size you want? If you do more work up front, it leads to a better process and a result when you know what you're looking for. Okay. And again, to reiterate, do not make our job harder. No sticking points. So when you don't put in a highlight and we have to search for clips, when you don't put in where you're from and we have to search for location or where the high school is or what the town is, okay? All these types of things, when we have to do extra steps to find you, it leads to issues because, again, it's not that we don't want to recruit this student athlete. It's that we have so much time in a day and our staff is so big and we can only read and look at and realistically see highlights on a certain amount of guys. So when there's a sticking point, you might just move them to the side or her to the side and move on to the next person who's making our job easier. Okay. And again, this is just kind of the facts of the matter. Again, we get hundreds of these per day, per week. So just keep that in mind. All right. So as coaches, how can I help? Okay. So like I said earlier, use what coaches want and emphasize in the recruiting process. Okay. So, the story of the wingspan, sometimes high school coaches or AAU coaches don't understand that we're looking at things like that. The story of, when the birthday is. We have a great player who's a sophomore for us now. I think he's going to have a good career. Didn't really play much last year, but his name's Jack Breezewick. And he was on the shorter side coming out of high school, but I knew that his dad was 6'8", played at Temple, played professionally. Oh, maybe he'll grow. But then when I did a little more research, I figured out that when he graduated high school, he's only 17 years old. Well, now I'm pretty confident that he'll probably grow. Turn around 2 years later, he's grown 1.5 inches. He's no longer a 6'3" shooter. He's almost 6'5" in shoes. And that's a completely different player, right? So again, that type of information is important for us. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from the student athlete themselves, but the high school coach, great time in a follow-up email. Hey, coach, this such and such said they're interested in your program. Just so you know, boom, boom, boom. His parents were Division I athletes. His dad is this big. His mom, whatever it might be, or he's super young for his grade. Or listen, his wingspan is this big. So again, these things are important and will catch coaches' eyes and just give them a better chance of getting looked at and getting a legitimate chance. Okay, the coaches, high school, AAU, follow up with a call, email to the coaching staff. Okay. Ask questions of your potential college players early on in the process. Size, location, major. What are you interested in studying? What type of school would be a good fit for you? Okay. Encourage players to start early. All right. Listen, in our level with our resources, we don't really start looking at players till their junior year, winter into the spring, but we will gladly get them on a list. Okay, start inviting them things, start trying to check them out younger than that. And the earlier they can start, the better their process is going to go. Okay. And then honest evaluation. I cannot stress this more. Okay. Each person, each individual student athlete is not an end game in itself. Okay. As a high school AU coach, okay, a person trying to help a recruit, you have to be honest because you're going to have another player coming down the line, coming down the pipeline that we're going to look at. And if you tell me this kid is actually this big and he's not, or he's a great kid and he's actually not, you might be helping out him in the short run, but we'll figure it out and might lead to headaches, right? And 2 headaches is a problem. Maybe he doesn't even stick with the team. Okay. But we'll figure it out. And now your value and your input is completely wiped. And the coaching world is a small one, right? So, if one of my buddies in the business is looking at a player and he says, well, his high school coach says this, but I've had an experience with them where it wasn't exactly honest about his evaluation, well, we're going to have an issue. And if you think he's too good, that's fine too. It's up to me to decide that. But just give honest feedback on your guys. All right, so some tips and tricks, just some quick stuff about using data. We try to be pretty nerdy staff here. We try to use data and do some things to help us in the recruiting process. But one good thing, free throw shooting is shows a strong correlation to future ability to shoot from three. So if you have a really good free throw shooter, big man or a point guard, but he hasn't extended his range out yet, well, keep those stats and let us know in that information. Hey, he's a 92% shooter from the line, blah, 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 blah. As the student athlete gets older and matures a little bit, gets a little stronger, he or she might become a fantastic three-point shooter. They just weren't there yet as a high school player. And again, we want people who are at their best senior year in college, okay? Or even after that, playing professionally. Just keeping good stats for your high school team. If you are lucky enough to have a manager, it does help in the recruiting process. We like knowing, accurate stats on assist turnover ratio, on efficiency, right? Great. So this guy, he made 18 points a game, had 6 rebounds. Well, he actually took 22 shots a night to get his 18 a game. That is the opposite of efficiency, and that is not somebody we would want playing in our program or for us, right? So keeping those good stats and efficiency stats, we try to look at that stuff. So again, maybe the player we want isn't on the face of things their best player or their biggest scorer, but he's the most efficient or he's always in the right spot. Okay. So our evaluation system, just quickly, these are some screenshots from our current 2022 list of point guards. So we took this eval system from a buddy of mine who is actually in the NBA, works in the front office and does draft work for them. And essentially it's a system that you can kind of specialize for your program, but it also helps you evaluate your ability to evaluate long-term. So what we do here is there's some screenshots here. So position, right? Primary, is he a lead guard, a scoring guard, a combo, or a catch and shoot? Okay. And then secondary position. So we'll do a primary, what his main role might be, and then a secondary. Okay. And then your role piece, right? So you can be a lead guard and be a facilitator. You can be a playmaker. Okay. You can be a lead guard scorer. All right. Shooter, finisher, defender. And again, these roles and positions will change on our wing board and our post board, but it's just an example. So you can put in primary and secondary. And then the best thing I think we do here is the projection. So low end, if this guy or this girl does not pan out the way we expect, would they still be a rotation player? Would they be cut from the roster, right? Would they be a role guy? If they hit the target you think, are they going to be a starter for you one day? Or is their top end a rotation? Could they become an All-American? And then what's their high end, right? Are they good enough to be all conference All-American? So some players you'll be recruiting, their low end is roster. Their target is starter, and their high end is starter because maybe their potential or upside isn't quite there. Some guys we might look at and their low end is cut, right? Maybe he's a little bit of a different character. You're not really quite sure what you're getting with. Their target is a rotation player, a guy who helps you out for 4 years, but their high end is an All-American because he's got the length or the athletic ability. And if he puts a couple other pieces together, he could be one of the best players in the country. Okay. So it helps a lot in terms of what you're looking at. And it helps you put the puzzle of what a recruiting class should look like. Because if you always take, high end upside guys, well, you might be in trouble if 4 of those guys don't pan out. So sometimes you have to mix in some more steady guys that might be low ceiling, but high floor versus low floor, high ceiling guys in the big range there. Okay. So We think about that a lot. What we do after we grade out all our players. So all this year, look at our 21s, our 20s, our 19s, and I'll try to, pick 10 of them and see if I project it out properly for them. So what I've learned over my last 5-6 years here is that I'm really good at evaluating wings. I'm a little harsh on point guard sometimes. Okay. And I'm a little harsh on posts sometimes. I don't think they're good enough when they probably could be good enough. So that's helped my eye adjust as we move forward. And it's just using a different data set to try to get better at what we're doing here. Okay. All right. So moving on, the last little piece is here. At the end of the day, honesty in the process might be the only thing that really matters. And I tell that to my assistants. I tell that to other coaches I know, buddies in the business, to high school coaches, to AU coaches, doesn't matter, to recruits. At the end of the day, honesty is the most important thing. Okay. Be straight up with a coach. Do you want to, I always tell the story to my recruits. My favorite answer on a recruit is yes, I want to come to TCNJ. My second favorite answer is no, I'm not interested, because it helps us narrow down who we're looking at and how we're going to put this puzzle piece together of this recruiting class. Okay. It is a long-term game, especially if you're in the business as a coach, a high school coach, AU coach. You're going to have lots of players that come through your program. Maybe it's 3 a year. Maybe it's 1 every 5 years, but I know you'll have multiple players that come through that program. Play the long-term game. Be honest in your evaluation. Don't try to trick a staff into taking a player because by day 3 of practice, we're going to know what we're dealing with. Okay. And it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. If you're talking to me about your wing, that's one of your first college potential players in a few years, and we're discussing things, and you really like a point guard on your rival's team, well, let us know. Okay. Those relationships will help. That'll help build trust. And moving forward, I will trust your eye if I agree with you on that point guard too. So there's other ways to build trust besides just your particular guys who are looking for a college home. Okay. And before I get out of here, just thank you guys for listening to a D3 coach from Jersey. I hope there's something in here that helps you. But if you ever have any questions, this is my contact info. Okay. Goldsmith, GOLDSMIM at tcnj.edu. Reach out. If you have questions on recruiting, you got players, whatever it might be. And then my Twitter and Instagram handles. Okay. You can send us a DM or whatever it might be if you're interested in starting a conversation or have questions about anything we talked about today. But again, I appreciate your time. I hope that helped, whether you're a player or coach or a fellow college coach. And if you guys ever need anything, please feel free to use this email. I mean it when I put it out there. I check that stuff, not an assistant or somebody else, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I appreciate it.